This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
Welcome to another episode of the Player 4 Podcast.
Hello, I am Tristan, aka Shagrazir on the Rooster Teeth website.
I am Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
Malachi, a.k.a. Suki Kiba.
And I'm Joseph Dunlap.
Damn it.
I'm not going to say anything.
I was expecting you to say...
I had to say it for Alex.
I was expecting him to yell at me. I'm Joseph, a.k.a. J. Dunlap.
Hello, Joseph, a.k.a. J. Dunlap. How are you today?
I know your ways, Joseph.
You know my ways?
Yes.
His Waze app?
Yeah, his Waze app. He has an app that has Waze.
Way Anchor.
Just saying your name is shorthand. You don't have to put the a.k.a. in. Just...
What?
Never mind.
Okay, let's move on before we start embracing the tangent really hard right now.
So we've just got a couple of topics today. We wanted to discuss Day 5, as that's recently come to completion, and people have opinions that they wanted to share about it. And I spent the last couple days trying out the new game that just released on Steam, No Man's Sky. So I thought I might give a little insight into that.
So are we starting off with No Man's Sky, so you can tell us what that is?
If you'd like to do that, sure. Basically, No Man's Sky is, as a lot of people have thought, it's Minecraft in space. It's a lot of resource gathering and traveling around and discovering. It's like a game of discovery. It's very open-ended. It's not objective-driven. You effectively start on a randomly generated planet in a randomly generated universe. There, as far as I can tell, there is no meeting other players at all, even if you happen to go to the same planet, because the randomly generated universe is shared. So once I guess the hook there is that when you go to a new planet and it says undiscovered, you can go and name the planet. You can go and discover different plant and wildlife species on it and name them. And if anybody else comes to that planet, it will say, this has been discovered by X player, and it will have all the names you gave to all the creatures. So that's kind of a cool thing. You can leave your mark on the universe as you discover different planets.
I think that's one of the things that people really question, because when, it was in development and it, released on the PS4, they made it to make people believe that it actually was multiplayer, and the fact that if you found someone, if you crossed paths with someone, you would see them. Yeah. However, there were two people who were streaming that found each other, were looking at the same thing, and they couldn't see each other.
Right. So that's why I'm saying there really is not any chance of meeting another player. Not because the odds are infinitesimally small, but because they're actually you're in different zones, iterations.
You're in a parallel universe.
In an MMO, you would call that an instance.
You're differently instanced, and so you cannot see anybody else online, as far as I can tell.
Instance differentiation.
One more thing, you said it was randomly generated. If people can come
procedurally generated.
That's okay. I wanted to get that clarified as procedurally, not necessarily randomly.
Do you know more about the difference between procedural and random?
I don't, but there is a difference, because if it was randomly generated, then the planets wouldn't necessarily be the same place, and you wouldn't you wouldn't be able to keep the names and everything if they're randomly generated.
Okay, so procedurally generated, meaning it looks at what's already been generated, gives you a new plot that is generated based on what's already been done, so that yours is unique, and then allows you access to other things that have already been done, as well as other things that have not yet been done. So that would be my understanding.
Pretty much it's a single-player game with names and stuff in Discovery that's multiplayer.
A little bit.
As you're playing the game, you're aware that other people are playing it. You can see signs that they've played it, but you don't run into them. So in that way, it's Oregon Trail.
I think that would be an okay way of saying it. I have only traveled to a couple different... Well, honestly, I haven't played very long, and I've only traveled to a couple different planets in the same star system. So nobody's been to my star system. I haven't run into any other already discovered planets or anything like that. The creatures are kind of interesting in the game, where they kind of took a template and said each creature is composed of 5 parts, and then they sort of did a random number generator and started assigning them different things. So you find that the creatures are just kind of hodgepodges of reusable parts, like hooves versus claws, cow body.
So did you come
body.
across a Trislex yet?
A Trislex.
I've come across some very weird-looking creatures, and I named them such.
Please tell me you named one the Trislex, or you're going to.
I guess I'll have to. I came across something that looked like a cross between a koala and an ostrich.
Now, I wonder if, because I know they have I'm pretty sure they have a filter on stuff, so you can't quite name things exactly what you want if it has like a bad word in it.
I'm not sure what the limitation on that is, because it doesn't tell you if it doesn't like the name you gave it. You basically type in a name and you hit go, and it says okay, and it checks it in. Basically, it's just checking it into the server that says this has been discovered in this region, yada yada, so other players can see it. But you don't know that it did or didn't like your name until you then hover over the icon, and it either has the name you gave it, or it has the original name that the game randomly assigned it. And after it does that, you can't change it again. So if it didn't like the name you gave it, too bad. Too late now. You can't name it something else.
Because then I'd say you have to name something Dookie as well.
I might be able to. I've had, interestingly, most of the things that have rejected the names that I've given them have been the plants, and I try to come up with interesting or informative ways of naming the plants, and then I'll go and look at it, and it'll still have the original name.
You dirty Tristan.
So, I don't know.
The reason I brought up Oregon Trail is because of the fact that you run across the signs that have been placed there by previous playthroughs, talking about people dying at certain places.
That's also something that's in, I believe it's in Dark Souls.
Yes.
You put up signposts, or like little...
Yeah, in Dark Souls you can leave messages on the ground, and you can see where another player has died.
Yeah.
And you can see shadows of another player if they're nearby fighting monsters that you're nearby, and then you can, try to summon them into your instance to help you with a boss.
Oh, that's not all areas. It's in specific spots. Well, at least in the older game.
So that's essentially what is kind of like No Man's Sky, except you can't even get someone into an instance with you.
No, because as far as I can tell, there isn't even a character model.
I was actually going to ask that, Tristan. I wondered whether it was because there are no character models. Streaming, they get on the same planet together. They're like, I don't see you. I mean, at what point do they have the shower realization that they'd never even made a character model?
Yeah, what I have noticed is that, and people have gone and data mined the game files looking for this stuff, there is no set character model. You're basically just a floating camera.
Okay. Do you get
With
weapons
hands?
at all?
No, you get weapons, but when you use them, it just appears down in the bottom corner of the screen. There isn't even a hand gripping it.
Really?
That would be even weirder, a camera with hands.
Well, I mean, I say that you're just a floating camera, but anybody looking at you doesn't even see the camera.
So you're like a teeny tiny GoPro.
Yeah, like a microscopic GoPro.
So,
yeah.
I just have a couple more questions, if I may, before we move on, or if anyone else has questions. One, I'm assuming that there's planets that are variably sized, so you have small planets and big planets.
You can have that assumption because I haven't verified that yet. All the planets are so massive. The planet that I'm on now is approximately the size of Earth. I can now that I've fixed my ship, because the first thing you have to do is fix your ship, I can take off, and I can start flying, and I don't have to leave the atmosphere. I can just start flying over the surface of the planet, and it'll take me a freaking hour or more to fly all the way around the planet and get back to my original spot.
Jesus.
So you're traveling really fast.
Yes. So the idea is that you're supposed to first fix your ship, and then you're supposed to go to the nearby planets, and eventually you'll run into these NPC aliens called the Gek. you can trade with them and give them, pay them for technologies, and eventually you can acquire enough pieces to build your ship a hyperdrive, and the hyperdrive will allow you to jump from star system to star system. And then after that, I believe that the idea is that you're supposed to be working toward the galactic center.
Yes.
And then there's sort of a finding God kind of quest, I guess.
Which the creators, I think, even said that they would be surprised if someone actually does reach the center. That's how massive this game is.
Well, I believe the players have already reached the center. I don't know. I mean,
that's just
because once you have the hyperdrive, you're not limited. You don't have to stop at every planet. You can jump anywhere from 1 to 3 star systems in a row once you have the hyperdrive, and you just have to stop to pick up the resources to refuel it. So you only have to land on a planet and bust enough things to get the materials you need to fill the hyperdrive again. Then you jump back in your ship and you jump a few more star systems. Like, there's no impetus beyond, your own interest level to actually go and explore each planet. And one thing I think is unfortunate is that while a lot of, the calculator they use to procedurally generate each of these worlds is very cool, very good, very in-depth, they are like individual Minecraft worlds where they're, one after another. They all kind of have the same elements. You just have the option of discovering and naming each new planet if you want. But you're going to be finding plants and animals of various shapes and sizes on each world.
Is it possible that this was just someone wanting to take that Minecraft mod where they went to space and just sort of apply that to a game with many, many Minecrafts?
I'm not sure, but what it does feel like, and what I've learned from the interviews with the creator and his team, is that their goal really was to push the limits of computing to see how big a universe they could procedurally generate and allow people to explore. I mean, beyond that, they didn't seem to have too many goals. And that is unfortunate, that there's a lot of things now. This is both unfortunate and fortunate. There's a lot of places they can go from here if they're willing to keep developing the game. But it sounds like at the moment they've reached their goal, which was to create a universe of infinite possibilities. But the infinite possibilities really lies within the computer to generate the infinite number of things you could potentially see and explore. The options left to the player aren't nearly as infinite when your interaction is limited to scan it and name it, break it down into material components to build maybe something you might need, or give it food and make it give you a smiley face if it's an animal. I haven't even noticed really.
Do you make it amorous?
I
was going to ask the same thing.
Maybe, kind of. I've found a few, several critters on the planet I started on. I actually left this planet, went to a different planet, and then came straight back to this planet. Because I wanted to explore it some more, try landing in a different area. But the animals that I found here, you can walk up to them, and generally they're skittish and will run away. But if you can chase after them, it will give you the option to try and give them, some of the material components that you've gathered, and feed it to them. And after you do that, they are friendly. It gives them a disposition that is non-hostile towards you.
Here, have this rock.
I give them carbon. They just seem to like carbon. One of them likes a really, really rare, obnoxiously hard to obtain material, and I gave him too much of it, and now I don't have enough for myself.
If you ever are having trouble getting an animal to like you, try punching it.
Yeah.
Oink, oink.
That tends to work real well. That pig.
So it's the sandboxes of all sandboxes then, huh?
Yeah, it's a little sandbox. Or rather, a gigantic sandbox, which is what their goal was create a gigantic sandbox.
5.3 billion planets, I believe they said.
It was 5.4 quintillion.
So I was off a couple illions.
Just by a little bit.
Just by
a few orders of magnitude, that's all.
That's close enough.
It was off by 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah, there you go. The hell's a gigawatt?
Do they have gigawatts in day 5?
Are you trying to get us on to day 5?
I think he is.
Oh.
I think he's tired of No Man's Sky, and that's fine. I'm having a good time exploring. Other people want more to do. That's sort of the gist.
So basically Pokemon Go then. It's everyone wanted to play it, and then eventually they wanted more to do. They didn't get it, and they stopped playing.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are
noticed
still
that
playing Pokemon Go.
I noticed that the Pokemon Go hype tapered off real damn fast.
Yeah.
I just think people are done talking about it. There's still people are playing it passively. They're just not talking about it as much.
I found that the people still playing it take it way too seriously because they've invested so much time in their high levels and they've got all these high CP Pokemons, and
Shots fired.
there's Facebook groups for the players in particular towns. And those groups are getting super competitive between the teams.
Okay, here's why I got
Shots
the
fired.
number wrong. It's because I got it mixed up with how long they said it would take someone to fully explore
Oh yeah,
the universe No
something-
Man's
yeah, a
Sky. It
few
would take
billion
5 billion years.
Yeah, to explore every inch of every planet. Or no, not explore every inch of every planet. It was something like 5 billion years if they spent only 1 second on each planet.
Well, okay, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Tristan, would you recommend?
If you like exploring with not much imperative beyond, go and see what the universe has to offer, is an excellent game. If you want something that has a storyline and tells you go here, go there, do this, there's some, ultimate objective like save the world, this is not that game.
Too bad they didn't make it so you could influence a society to grow on the planet and kind of nurture it, kind of like a Sims game.
Or
Yeah.
Civ?
I really did think, I thought I remembered early on them saying that you would be able to build civilizations on these planets, but that is not, if that's somewhere they're going, they haven't gone there yet.
There's a lot of potential there. You could either, sort of become the ruler of your own little civilization and build it up to an empire, or you could also do a thing where each player sort of develops quest lines and things for other players that happen to come across it, build their own content, sort of.
You have this mining laser that allows you to gather the different materials you need for things, and there are certain materials that appear in these monolithic, deposits on the surface, and when you go to mine them, it blasts chunks out of them. So this was actually kind of a cool little mechanic, because the planet that it started me on, and everybody starts on a different planet, generally speaking, was an ice world. So one of the big problems that I was dealing with was not freezing to death. And when I first started playing, my only way of preventing freezing to death was to only stay out until I was at 50% of my, thermal protection, and then jump back in my ship to warm up, and then go out again. And so I was tethered to the ship, and I didn't understand why. How was I supposed to explore, and actually get the materials to fix the ship if I couldn't go very far away from the ship? And I found that there are some underground areas that are warm enough that you don't freeze, and your thermal protection will regenerate while you're in there. So when I got to this area with these monolithic deposits that you can blast chunks out of to gather them, I actually found that I could dig a hole straight into the deposit, and I could get it enclosed enough that I could seek refuge inside the thing I was mining. So I was able to build a crude shelter from the elements, which was kind of cool. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool.
Mechanic.
Yeah, mechanic.
Yeah. Now I'm in a deep cave complex and I'm completely freaking lost.
Your internet sure is good from there.
Yes, my internet's amazing.
Deep cave, are you going in and out and in and out?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I haven't found the way out of this cave. I would go out in and out if I could.
My final question is, did you spend 5 days in there?
Ha
ha ha.
Oh, cumulatively, not yet.
I took us away from that once. Let's just go dive right into it now.
Oh.
So what we're basically doing here with day 5, now that we're moving on, is we're going to give our sort of impressions after a quick synopsis. We're going to say spoiler free, and then as we near the end of the episode, we're going to give everyone a warning. If you don't want spoilers, tune out and come back when you've watched day 5. and then at that point we'll finish off the episode with spoiler talk. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I was hoping so, because I just said all that.
Oh, redo it.
Just cut it. Just cut all of
Oh, okay. I'll totally cut this.
Cut it. Wink.
Wink.
it.
It's sort of a post-apocalyptic. It's an apocalyptic event story that follows several different characters as they try to survive. Only, unlike your zombie apocalypse or your nuclear war, you've got people falling asleep and not waking up. And so now you've got the few survivors who have managed to stay awake these past few days, trying desperately to find a cure or live it up before they inevitably expire.
Okay, and that's interesting. I googled day 5, and there's a different day 5? Is that, what?
What?
There's DayZ.
What? Okay, so I looked up day 5 characters, and I got...
That's what I did. Did you get 24, season 5?
I got 24 season 5. What?
Yeah. That's the show 24, and it's showing the characters for the 5th season.
All right, then.
I was doing the
Was the
same
5th
thing,
season
though,
called Day 5? Or is it because 24 hours in a day? So
Yeah, 24 hours in a day, and then season 5. So we've got primary characters here. We've got Sam, Jake, Allie, and Ellis. Those are the 4 primary characters.
I bet we're looking at the same...
We probably are.
Yeti,
Yell magazine. Yeah.
Can you guys see each other while you're on the same page?
No, there's no character
it's procedurally
models.
generated.
Oh, man, so you've got the same problem as No Man's Sky.
Okay, so Sam and Jake are kind of a group. Then there's Allie and there's Ellis. So who wants to talk about Sam and Jake?
I like Sam and Jake. Sure, I'll talk about Sam and Jake. Sam is a kid who has managed to survive these 3 or 4 days into the event, and he is important because the other characters around him are always remarking on how they never see anybody his age anymore. The younger children seem to have died off. So he's a frustrated, what was he, 13, 14-year-old?
I think 13.
Yeah. And so he kind of humanizes. He's an interesting character because he's used to sort of humanize the whole situation with his more simplistic needs as being a kid in his early teens. So he sort of brings the sexual humor to it, and also just the realism in his problems, or the things that he thinks about, are closer to home than some of these people who are more on a quest to save the world. And he is traveling with Jake, who is sort of a, we would say he's maybe 30 years old, or in his late 20s. And he's sort of like your average Joe, failure at most of the things he's tried to do, and somehow he has managed to survive this apocalypse, and is, what was it, due to a drug addiction, wasn't it?
It was a drug bender.
Yeah.
I was taking offense to average Joe being a loser.
Average Joseph Dunlap is a loser. I mean, sorry. So I actually quite like them. They're of all the characters, they have the most screen time, and because they're the ones that the audience is going to be able to relate to the most, and see as the most humanized, as everybody else they interact with is either an intelligent scientist working desperately to find a cure, or Ellis.
Protagonists. The character that doesn't know what's going on. Okay, Alex, do you want Allie or Ellis?
Why don't I just not talk about the characters?
Oh, okay. But you have the website up.
I have the IMDb up, yes.
Oh, nice. So Allie is a doctor, and we see her pretty early on in the story because the protagonists run into her at the hospital, and she gives them a little concoction of stuff, and she's part of the night shift of that hospital that survived the turnover, the event horizon that occurred, and her significant other, that we don't know is her significant other for a long time, takes off, and she's just sort of there. But when she finds out that Ellis is on a quest to find out what's going on, she goes with the group, but then she hears a radio transmission from Austin and takes the guys back, leaves Ellis, and she takes Sam and Jake back to Austin. She wants to find the cure, but she really doesn't have the means, so she almost seems at times out of her elements with what's going on. Like, you can see the determination, but she really never actually gets to the cure because her significant other is actually closer than she is.
She was a radiologist.
Ah, okay. It's interesting, but she's still focused on finding the cure. And she even gets mad at Jake for his failure at watching her friend, who then falls asleep in an early episode. And then she finds her significant other who has gotten closer to the cure than she has. At that point, she actually starts to devote more attention to Jake and Sam when she didn't even want them with her originally, and Jake has proven himself. So she actually becomes a little bit more focused on keeping those two with her, and they're sort of a group that's out on the outside at that point, and she no longer is devoted entirely towards finding the group in Austin and joining them. It's interesting, her character journey, that she actually becomes more focused on her camaraderie with the other two characters. But then we have Ellis, and Ellis was an airplane pilot, survived the whole event because he was on the red-eye flight. A bunch of people on his plane died, including his co-pilot. In fact, there's a scene where he has his little black box from the airplane, the indestructible black box, and he's listening to what happened when everyone died over and over as, I guess, a way to motivate himself. Or maybe
a lot of characters in his situation are portrayed like that, having something that they kind of obsess over or perseverate on.
It also could be a way to keep himself awake, because there was a part where he was falling asleep at the wheel, and he turned that on and stood outside the car and listened to it. I would say it's like, it's motivation, it's also staying awake, the motivation helps him stay awake, it's reminding him why he's doing this, but he goes on a journey all over the country until his airplane gets busted because he runs into Jake's car, and at that point he's having to drive around, but he's figured out that there's some sort of connection to where people were and what time they fell asleep and died. Well, at one point they died in their sleep, so he goes to Dallas and finds a whole group, and they're trying to uncover what's going on. So that's our four characters. We've got Sam and Jake, who humanize the whole thing. We have Allie, who's a doctor, a radiologist, and wants to find the cure and is somewhat helpless in her quest to do so. And Ellis,
she's our window into the science side of it.
Yeah, and she's got all the sciencey talk, but ultimately is as helpless as Jake and Sam. And then we have Ellis. His angle isn't so much find the cure, it's find the source. Because you find the source, you can cut it off, potentially, because, only so many hours you can survive. Eventually, you have to just sort of pick a path and go with it. So that's what he did. His path was find the source. If I can cut it off, maybe I fix this. If I don't, then maybe Allie will fix it over in Austin. There's a lot of going with it, a lot of winging it, which is very true to life. You're never quite certain of what you're doing. Often characters in TV and movies have the strength of the script helping them, but these characters are very human, and they're just sort of trying their best to play it by ear and see what happens. So that's the spoiler-free synopsis and character stuff.
I think that now we can just have a discussion. Just say what you think, and then we'll go back and forth.
How about Alex first?
I enjoyed it. I thought I mean, when we talked about this before, when only a few episodes had been out, I talked about how it kind of makes the watcher kind of think to themselves, what if this happened? What if I wouldn't wake up from falling asleep? And I think overall, the characters, they chose some really good actors to portray these characters rather than trying to rely on the Rooster Teeth staff like they've done in the past. So I think that kind of helped with the show. I'm afraid that if they chose the Rooster Teeth staff, other than they did have Barbara and they did have some other cameos, but if they had the staff kind of as the main cast, it might not have seemed as real to me as it was with these other characters that I didn't know.
I think that it kind of I can understand that and agree to an extent, but I thought that it costed a little bit of the Rooster Teeth magic to have all these people, to not see the familiar faces. It was really easy to forget that this was a Rooster Teeth production.
Well, I think that part of the reason why that as well is because, like they said, this is their first trip into the whole drama aspect of TV and all that. All they've done is comedy. So to go into something drama, I mean, even with the Rooster Teeth staff, it would seem completely out of left field for them to like start doing drama as the staff doing drama rather than doing the comedy that they always do.
I suppose. I thought that Joel and Matt really played their characters well. Matt was more comedy since he really just had a single scene, but Joel, I thought, was a very important character and did a great job with it.
Joel did a tremendous job, and I think that shows kind of his acting background that he had, as opposed to a lot of the RT staff doesn't have an actual acting background, so to speak, other than their own productions.
Well, yeah, most of the Rooster Teeth staff, prior to when they started hiring the huge animation team that does all their animated shows, a lot of them, their background was simply production in general. And then when they came to Rooster Teeth, they found themselves starring in their own productions. So they sort of had to develop actors' chops, as you can see with Barbara really doing well with her character Flip, as you can see with the voice acting that several of them do, not even in Rooster Teeth productions. They sort of have to acquire those skill sets because they were hired, for the most part, either because they were good gamers or because they could produce things that other people were in.
Indeed.
And that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
So I gave my overall impressions in earlier episodes about the production in general, the premise, how they handled the first episode or two or few, and I was very impressed. I found it to be a better version of The Walking Dead, and by that I mean it's a better concept. Alex said a lot of the things that I have said too, is it's very human. You put yourself in the situation immediately because of these humanizing characters and this concept where you're not killed by zombies, you're killed by what your body naturally wants to do, and you're having to fight against sleep, which your body needs to survive. But if you do sleep, the body doesn't survive. So it's very real. There's a timeline on it. There's a clock on it where they have to find the cure within the next week or so, probably less, if they're not lucky. The characters handle it in a real way, especially Sam and Jake. You're really rooting for them, but you also feel what they feel, which is helplessness. So, I that's kind of my overall impression of the show before we go to spoilers.
Yeah.
It was very well made. The cinematography was good. The characters are good. There's good, well-written, character beats and realistic, background characters, I'll say. All the characters that aren't those main four. A lot of them are very realistic, especially the idea of the incubus and how there are many characters that they've alluded to the fact that there's many people in the world that will afflict themselves as a way to avoid falling asleep.
Right.
And then go crazy.
Yeah, the thought had never even occurred to me. But once I saw at least two characters do that on screen, hurt themselves in some way to stay awake, I was like, that actually does make sense. And as Alex says, that will naturally just drive you crazy because you're feeling nothing but pain. Like the incubus, his entire life's goal became to inflict it on others for some reason. Maybe to feel alive, to stay alive.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to respond to that episode just because, I had gone into it going, wow, this is a very interesting kind of post-apocalyptic world, because in everything else, one of your greatest fears, one of your greatest adversaries are other survivors. And so it was really refreshing to see that wasn't the case in Day 5. Every place they went, they would be freely offered stimulants as people tried to help others survive, and they knew that their chances of survival would increase the more people were alive around them. And then all of a sudden the Incubus episode came along and kind of blew all of that out of the water for me.
And it's interesting because he's not so much purposely disrupting that as he is just sort of a wild card in the equation, because we do have some people later on who do not get along with others, and they're in their as much of their right mind as left at this point, and they're purposely disrupting what's going on around them.
The pain, the amount of pain probably messed with his mind, plus the fact that he was I guess, I don't know, we might be going to spoilers if I go too far.
We're spoiler territory now, don't worry about it.
We are in spoiler territory.
No, we need to warn people if we're heading into spoiler territory.
Warning, we're hitting spoiler territory.
Okay, there you go, done.
If you have not watched Day 5, come back to this point in the video or audio and listen to the rest of this. Okay, Alex, spoiler territory.
the incubus basically he's causing pain, but he was also the fact that like his dog died and he was like completely distraught by it. And so I think that all just messed with his mind, and probably the pain, like, because there's more than just one incubus, as we
according to the sniper chick.
I think maybe one of the reasons that they then began killing people, trying to find people and kill them, is the fact that, I mean, I haven't done it, but I'm pretty sure that like when they kill someone or they kill something, they get an adrenaline rush from it, and that adrenaline's going to keep you awake.
Could be true.
Yeah, that was actually kind of the direction I was going with when I was saying like maybe to help you feel alive, but I didn't even think about the adrenaline rush, Alex. Also, if you look at the way he was introduced, he's just sitting in his office pulling an all-nighter. Nobody's around, he's all alone, he's a loner. He gets home, his dog is dead, and that's, I guess, all he had and all he wanted. And with his dog dead, he went and buried it stoically, didn't say a word. In fact, he never said a word on screen. Did he? I don't think he ever said anything.
I think he just sort of yelled and hit people.
Like, even before he went crazy, he never
yelled
spoke.
and punched a mirror.
Yeah, that was a turning point in the character, really, when he noticed when he pulled the glass out that was keeping him awake, and he just stuck it back in. I was like, oh! Because Rooster Teeth's getting a lot better with their gore special effect.
That was the episode they showed at RTX, too.
Was it? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't see the episode at RTX. I was elsewhere.
Well, I didn't see it either. I only heard about it.
Oh, okay.
So let's talk about all the spoiler stuff that we haven't talked about. Characters, story.
I think at the ending. I'm confused.
I guess we could just launch into the ending.
Go to the ending. Did you guys watch the little side video of
the one with
like
Katie's character, and then
that's how you show. Yeah, that was her getting, like, it showed her journey basically trying to find stuff for like medical supplies, and then she ends up coming across his path, and that's actually where, after like he becomes incubus, that's where the killing. That's where we see him kill the person.
I wonder, did she already go through with her plan to connect the different facilities? I would assume so, because she's just sort of walking around in the Austin Round Rock area.
No, I think she was on her way.
No, she's just walking around, though. She drove. If she was going to drive to the facility, to the hospital, she wouldn't drive to a mile away from it and walk. She was strolling along. I think she was already done with that.
I don't know.
It was sad, though. It was like, freaking, what are you doing to me? Introduce this character, make me care, and then kill her.
Yep.
And I wonder if they're going to do more of that, because that would really sort of push it over the top as far as making Day 5 special. Give us more than just a series. Give us lots of stories in that world, like they're doing with Red vs. Blue.
More side videos.
That's right. I didn't get a chance to see those yet. As far as the story goes, Tristan, what you said, I'm gonna echo, which is I did not get the ending, and I'm interrupt me if you want, but I want to rant for a second.
No, okay. Go ahead, because I'm lost. I want to know.
I will see if maybe I understood it a little bit more, but you guys go ahead and talk about what you're confused on, what you're ranting about, and all that.
My issue is not so much that I didn't understand the ending. My issue is that I was misled as a viewer. We were led to understand that this would be a few episodes.
Yep.
Almost like a miniseries.
Right.
And when I got to the end of the final episode...
Is the final episode 6 or 7?
6.
So I watched a thing.
There's only 6 episodes.
Okay, because they stopped being numbered after 5?
Oh, I guess maybe they didn't number 6 because it's finale.
No. 6 was numbered. Then I watched something called Breakthrough, and then I watched the one called Big News or something like that.
I think those were the side videos.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get to the end of the episode, and as I'm nearing the end, I'm going, okay, where's the closure point here? There's no closure point.
There was not.
What's going on here? And then it ends, and I go, this is a shameless ploy to get us to watch the next season. And then I go to Twitter, and Josh Flanagan says, good news, season 2 was greenlit. We expected some sort of closure, and to end on a cliffhanger where we're back at square one, literally back at square one, with the primary characters, all that's happened is we've discovered more of what's going on, but no story has actually happened. The characters are almost back where they started. We're back to just the 4 main characters again, with just one question. What the heck is Sniper Chick doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm not as critical about that. I kind of saw it coming. Like, maybe... I could have seen that maybe if we could have gotten a little more closure than the absolute nothing that they gave us, but at the same time, I kind of saw it coming. Like, we're going to get a season 2. They're probably not going to completely solve what is happening.
I at one point, I almost expected everyone to just die.
Like honestly, okay. I'm glad I accidentally watched Breakthrough, because I thought Breakthrough was supposed to be the end, which was a much better spot to end on than where they did.
I think I kind of echo one of our mutual friends that I'm not going to call out by name on her journal on the Rooster Teeth site, when she said the characters are left at the same exact point they were at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people accuse a Game of Thrones season of doing that as well, where nothing has happened for like half the season. But in this case, I feel like we've seen stuff happen. We've seen characters, but hardly anybody has developed. The story hasn't really developed. We've just seen... I think what we saw was...
The characters had developed.
A little bit. Sam has not developed. Jake has developed a little bit.
Well, he's still a kid. I'm sorry, he hasn't hit 50 yet.
No, I don't mean developed breasts.
Wait,
I'm kidding. Okay, Sam's character development was he became protective over the girl that he wanted to date. That's really his character development.
I think we really saw the development between, like, the relationships between the characters.
Okay,
I almost feel it's more important than the characters themselves.
Jake is dealing with guilt because of his mother committing suicide, and he had the cathartic dreams. I felt like that was really good for him as far as a character perspective goes. I thought that was very good to write that in. Allie, I'm not sure. Was her development just that she was hoping that her significant other would have the cure, and then she didn't like it and chose her friends?
Well, okay, let's just put it out there. Her significant other is a girl.
I didn't know whether I should say fiance, wife, or girlfriend. I don't know.
I don't think they were fiancés yet. I think they were just girlfriends.
Okay, I didn't want to be specific there, but her girlfriend, who we had seen earlier, but we didn't know they were together. What was
Lex?
Her name? Lex. I think maybe Allie's journey was discovering that she didn't want the cure after all, if it was on the dead bodies of children.
Yes.
And
I think a big part of it was children, but I think also even greater part was the fact that it was Sam.
Yeah.
Yes, because she didn't realize how attached she had gotten to them until right around that point.
Until when she was in the dream, when she was dreaming.
Yes, that was also a good dream.
It was a terrible dream.
Who here thought that dream was real at any point? Because for a second, I actually did.
I was like, "There's no way they would kill off two super main, like the 2 main characters of the 4 main characters. They would not kill off."
When I thought we were nearing the end, I was actually okay with it because it would have helped tell the story in some way. But if they weren't going to end it, there's no point in killing off 2 of the 4 main characters.
I was fooled up until one of them started flatlining, and I go, "Oh, I see. This is a ploy."
When
they tipped their hand once one of them started flatlining, and I went, "Oh."
When Lex started to break up with her, I was like, "Okay, relationship talk after people die. I don't think that's gonna happen." And then she shoots herself.
At least we can be together.
That was sort of character development. Did any character development happen for Ellis?
Yeah. So he stands in the face of somebody telling him that they've got a whole bunch of shooters with their guns trained on him. He says, I don't care if I die as long as I take one of you with me. So you kind of you begin to understand his motivations. I don't know if much changed by the end, though.
Something happened
at the end,
off
he was
screen.
about ready to give up.
Yeah, what Alex said. Something happened off screen because they were all going to give up, and either he figured out Crazy Sniper Chick was lying, or he realized he wasn't ready to give up because he's gone the next morning. So there could have been a between-season character development twist that happened. But we'll just have to find out with that. But I think the main thing is, okay, so the characters did develop to some degree. They realized that they needed each other, and Ellis just realized he had a reason to not give up. Story-wise, though, I felt like as we neared the end of the season, revealing plot elements was the only way we were going to actually develop the plot, was simply discovering things that had already been going on. The only plot development that really occurred was the twist with the sniper chick, and discovering the tension between Agent Washington, Crazy Doctor, and the locals.
Which the sniper chick is Meredith, and the fact that she has a pet crow.
Yes, that's right. The crow's connected to her. I was so sad when the D&D nerd died.
Yeah, with the D&D guy.
And so then it's like, what's up with the crow? Why did the crow randomly land next to D&D nerds and then lead this guy to Dallas? And why is she military? Who did she talk to? And how can she survive? So there's a lot of questions there. But I agree with the journal that you guys probably also saw on Rooster Teeth, which was simply we're back at square one with no answers. We're experiencing Lost at this point. Great concept, great characters, great story. But I'm very curious, and I'm going to preface this so that people don't get mad at me and say I didn't like it. I liked Day 5. I'm curious where they're going with it, because that determines how I felt about the finale.
I don't like to say that, I don't like to base what I think about something after the fact when, like, I have to wait until something else is done before I say, okay, this is a good thing. I think you should be able to decide, okay, was this a good ending for the season or was it not? You should not base it off of what they do later.
I agree with you, Alex. I shouldn't have to say that I want to wait for the next season. In that way, I think I liked every episode except for the final episode, the latter half of it. Although I also didn't like the Incubus episode, and I'll say why. I personally don't enjoy watching helpless characters get killed by a serial killer. So I didn't enjoy that episode very much. Because I cared about these characters, and they were just being killed as if they were helpless, up until the moment that we realized that the one guy had only been hurt and he still had his gun and he wasn't dead. And I was like, okay, well that's cool. So I'm going to stop talking, but that's my perspective. I'd like to hear from you guys.
I mean, I just don't like people inflicting pain on other people or even themselves. Like, even when they, like, inject themselves with the stuff to keep them, like, awake, I'm just like, ugh.
The adrenaline shots that have to go straight into the heart.
Yes. Ugh.
Which, you know, you're going to see in everything forever, ever since it was done in The Rock. That's where that was the first movie I ever saw that on, was The Rock.
What about Crank?
I don't even know what Crank is.
Crank is a movie and its sequel, Crank 2, starring Jason Statham, where in the first one, he's poisoned in his sleep with an injection, and he calls his doctor and describes his symptoms. The doctor says, well, I know what that is, and what's going to happen is if you run out of adrenaline, it's going to go to your heart and kill you. So you have to inject yourself with epinephrine. It's this real trippy movie where while he's trying to inject himself with epinephrine and keep his adrenaline level up, including public sex with his girlfriend in Chinatown, and all these different things he's doing to keep the adrenaline up, he's also going on a revenge quest. And in the second one, he survived a fall from the sky at the end of the first one because of the adrenaline in his heart. And the second one, he has an artificial heart that has to be electrically charged to keep beating. So then he's trying to get electrical charge. Like, he rubs up on an old lady at one point. He uses a car battery at one point. He has public sex with his girlfriend again.
Okay.
And he has a revenge quest the entire time up until the final shootout. And then he still doesn't die because his doctor saves him. So that, I believe, was also a movie where he injects himself in the heart. But Tristan is so correct because hardly nobody saw Crank.
I saw the first one. I thought it was actually a pretty interesting plot and movie with all that. I have not seen Crank 2 yet.
I love pretty much everything Jason Statham's in, except for the handful of boring heist movies that he did.
Boring heist.
Pretty much anything where his character's interesting, I like his movies.
He's in a movie coming up, Mechanic's Revenge.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mechanics Resurrection. Resurrection.
I may have seen The Mechanic, actually, but I saw one where he was in a team of hitmen, and they were supposed to take out some people in the UK, and then his mentor was betraying him. Is that the mechanic?
I don't know. I haven't seen the mechanic. I just know that
okay.
The Mechanic's Resurrection is coming out.
Okay, I think we're off topic here.
Yeah.
Any last words from someone? Was somebody really hoping to say something about day 5?
I didn't like the way it ended. No, mostly I just it was so much build up to, okay, maybe it is this digital signal that's doing it, and then no, it's not. It's over. It's like,
yeah,
what?
It made it feel pointless, which in real life we do pointless things and we fail. But at some point we were hoping something would happen, and nothing happened really.
Right.
And
there was a little bit of self-discovery, a little bit of exploring what people do when faced with their mortality, and then nothing.
I guess I'm the opposite. I am actually really excited for the second season. I love the cliffhanger of it, and I'm okay with the, not necessarily getting the closure. It would have been nice to get some closure, but I'm not deterred by it, and I'm looking forward to the second season.
Something I'm curious about is the crazy doctor character, because his story,
Abrams.
Is that his name? Okay. His story is not done. Sure, Allie and her group are leaving, but he and Lex are still working on a cure. There's still unrest in the neighborhood. They're still very close to having a legit cure. So with these characters leaving them, so far the story has only followed those 4. Wherever they are, we see the story. So I'm curious how many seasons they want to do and how they want his story to unfold, and whether we're going to see things happen that aren't perceived, witnessed by those 4 main characters, or whether they're going to return and then we see the progression of what he's done in the meantime. Because baseless speculation is, I think he's going to try and make a utopian society, much like there was in Aeon Flux.
Yeah. I also like the fact that Shannon seems to keep playing either crazy doctors or orderlies.
He's really, really good. You guys were talking about Joel, but I think he takes the cake as far as Rooster Teeth talent, even though he's not one of the guys that at the Rooster Teeth office, I consider him Rooster Teeth talent. He takes the cake. He's so good.
Yeah. I mean, he played a very eccentric, self-centered doctor very, very well. Thinking that he's above everyone else. He played that perfectly.
And who wouldn't be crazy if Jeff and Bernie tried to send you in the future in an icebox so you would look like Tiger Woods?
But here's my prediction. So, how many days? Isn't it 13 days that technically that the human body can live before it actually literally shuts down completely?
I would say it's 13 for the most resilient bodies.
So I think that's where they're going to try. They're going to try to put it up somewhere in and around that number. That's when they finally solve the mystery and get it to cure everyone, or being able to shut down whatever is causing it so that they can fall asleep. I think that's what's going to come down to.
I think it's going to come down to pretty quickly a showdown between the faction that did this and an opposing faction. Because we know somebody did this because Meredith is immune to it. She had a nice night's sleep, woke up and I went, oh, they cured it. No, just her. So I think it's going to come down to an evil faction of some kind, almost Resident Evil style, wanting to subjugate, which could mean that the doctor with the cure is either a threat to them or wants to join them. We'll have to see about that. Oh, I'm wrong about something. A few things were shown to us that weren't perceived by the protagonists. The backstory of the Incubus, the side stories, and the very ending when we find out Meredith is immune. So that makes me think we're going to start to follow other characters.
Possibly. It's possible that they might follow Meredith, but I almost feel like it's going to be where we don't follow her and she's going to end up crossing paths with again. Because I think now that's almost going to become her mission now, is to try to deter them. I
think she played such a prominent role in the latter half of the first season. There's no way she doesn't play a prominent role later on. And then I think either she's going to become a primary antagonist and eventually either make it all the way to the end and get offed, or get offed after an entire season of being an antagonist, or she's eventually going to change sides and be a permanent fixture on the good guy side. That's just baseless speculation. I think she's too big of a character to not play into the story in a big way later on. even if not immediately, as Alex says. Are we pretty much done then?
Yeah, I'm happy.
So we liked it?
I enjoyed it. I just, like you, thought that there should have been something more or different.
I don't so much demand closure in a season finale. What I wanted was for them to be upfront that it was just a season finale. And what I wanted was for them to be at a different point in the story than they were at the beginning. And it just felt like the protagonists were still trying to achieve the same goals that they were trying to achieve at the very beginning. In the same way that people criticize Two Towers often for ending at the same place that it begins.
Right.
Of Lord of the Rings. So, I mean, I'm not going to criticize the show in a whole. I think the show was great, and I think there's a lot of potential, but I think they really need to think beyond the concept and beyond the core characters and give us some good story, because there wasn't enough story in the season. As I said earlier, as I said earlier, revealing plot elements isn't the same thing as plot development. So I think they're really going to have to develop the plot, develop characters, develop factions, and really get us going on some sort of story, because great first season. I'll say that. Great first season, but we're going to need more from coming seasons. And I think they're going to do more. Alex, you liked it. Give us the final word.
A final word about what? About Day 5?
Just Day 5 in general. Out of the three of us, you liked it the most.
Yes, I liked it. The suspense, the humanizing element of it, the actors, the few Rooster Teeth cameos, done well. I'm ready for season 2. I'm ready to see what Josh Flanagan, who's doing all of it, who's producing it. Or I guess he's directing it, not producing it.
Josh Flanagan's putting up the money? Huh.
I want to see what he has in store. As a first trip into drama, I think it was pretty successful.
Yes, I agree. It was very, very well made, and it was interesting as I was going on different websites that had, Google Sense ads and things like that that were just sort of showing whatever it was they thought I wanted to see, and I was seeing Day 5 ads. Mm-hmm. And What's in the Box ads, and I was like, hey, it's Rooster Teeth. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, I've been seeing the What's in the Box ads everywhere.
Yeah, I see it on the site that I write for all the time.
One last thing is that based off of what they've done with Day 5 and the whole drama aspect, I'm really curious as to what now their next show coming out, Crunch Time, how that's going to play out. Even though I'm not as hyped about it as Day 5, but that's kind of hard to do when Day 5 was hyped for 4 years.
Their new show, Crunch Bite.
No, it's Crunch Time. I believe there's going to be a little bit more comedy in Crunch Time than Day 5, obviously, but I think it's still somewhat geared a little bit towards the drama aspect as well.
Seems accurate.
Barbara Dunkelman said that she got to see Crunch Time, and she said it felt like Stranger Things, but a comedy.
Yes.
And Stranger Things is a whole other episode, so I think it's time that we go ahead and bring us out of this, because we're nearing the hour mark.
Hi.
Hi, Malachi.
Hi, Malachi.
How you doing, buddy?
Now you know everything about Day 5. What do you think?
Well, based on your opinions and stuff, also, just to point out that it's a good thing they didn't burn through all their resources in the beginning of it, because it allowed them to add on a lot if they choose to. It's
very buildable. They can really build on the concept and expand the world if they want to, or keep it small if they want to. But the idea that they said goodbye to 2 characters in Austin that were side characters, and then a bunch of characters died at the end in Dallas, means that they do intend to continually introduce characters as quickly as they can kill them off.
Yeah, so that just leaves a lot of open ends.
Kind of like Game of Thrones.
And also, I'm one of those people that watch Crank. Have watched Crank.
Awesome. So we need to watch Crank sometime. It'd be awesome.
P4 watches Crank and makes fun of it.
There will not be bleeps.
Right.
It would be a lot of bleeps, because it's a Jason Statham movie.
Anyways, so
bleep free.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Tristan, hurry up and say it.
What?
Oh,
hashtag goodbye.
Is that a thing now? I don't want that to be a thing now.
I don't want to be a thing.
Too bad.
Dookie Kiba doesn't want it to be a thing.
This is a thing, though. Goodbye.
If hashtag goodbye is a thing, then you have to get rid of Dookie Kiba. You can only have one or the other.
I choose Dookie Kiba.
Keeping Dookie Kiba.